to the first season of the web review series, The More The Gorier, presented by Mr. Mayhem Movies. Now I'm Sean Scott, along with Nate Miller, Shane Scott, and James Bull. Now this series is meant to review some of the largest and most influential slasher franchises in the genre. Each episode will focus on one franchise in its entirety, mainly centering on feature films. We will give like a little bit of a brief overview of each installment, maybe some background information, but overall it's mainly just our opinions of what we like and dislike about each movie. Also keep in mind this is not an in-depth critical analysis, it's just the opinions of some hardcore horror fans. So what we're reviewing today is the Friday the 13th franchise. It consists of 12 films, one of which is a crossover with A Nightmare on Elm Street, along with a reboot in 2009. There's also a TV show that was from the late 80s to the early 90s, along with, I think there was recently a failed TV pilot for the CW. There's been a few video games for the franchise over the years, not many. Also like 2 feature-length documentaries that we'll get into. I think that's pretty much all like the big things, along with like comic books throughout the ages. So, anyways, when I became a fan of Friday the 13th, it originally began with, I think, James showing us Freddy vs. Jason. But when I first saw that movie, it was like, I want to see all the Nightmare on Elm Street, and I did not care at all for Friday the 13th. So after I watched all the Nightmare on Elm Street, I then went back, like me and Shane, then went back and watched like all the Friday the 13th, and originally I'll say I was not a fan of most of the movies. It was possibly like some of the newer ones, Freddy vs. Jason, the reboot I enjoyed, but some of the older ones, like even particularly the first movie, I wasn't a big fan of. And it wasn't after repeat viewings and I eventually became like one of my favorite franchises.
I was sick in middle school, and I just like watched I think like the first 5 in a row. I mean, I liked it. So
Sounds like a good time.
Was it like a marathon on TV or?
No, I think they were all on Netflix at the time.
That's
before they took them
This
off.
is why we can't get girlfriends. But, okay, I guess I'll go. Well, I think mine was similar. James brought it over, and it was because of, we watched Jay and Silent Bob a lot, and there's those 2 characters in it that look like Jay and Silent Bob, and James was really, like, into that. So, we watched that, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. And, like, I really liked, actually, Freddy vs. Jason. I know that's not the most popular opinion, but then from there, it just kind of went. Me and Sean get kind of obsessive about stuff like this, and we probably binged all of these within a month. If that's being generous, it was probably less than a month.
Oh yeah.
We didn't really have a life. We were in high school. I had no life. Yeah, like, and just kind of think we did all this alongside other horror movies that we were binging, so that's how we got into it.
I think it first started off with me in 2nd grade.
Oh, dear Lord.
There was a kid on the bus that was talking about it, and I thought it sounded cool, so I can't remember where I got it from. But I watched the first and second movie back to back, and then later when we got Netflix, I just binge watched all the movies. And it's the first horror movie franchise I got into, so I think that's why it's my favorite franchise.
Like James was patient zero, and like
Yeah, he was the reason that we all started liking it. Okay, so first up we have the original Friday the 13th that came out in 1980. Now obviously it was pretty much made to cash in on the success of Halloween. That was around 1978. But Friday the 13th was the one that really like cemented the slasher movie formula. Like it went off Halloween, but it really like focused on the gore, which is what most people associate with slasher films. The basic premise of the movie is that there's a boy that drowned in a lake many years ago, and then a little bit, like a couple years later around that, a couple counselors end up dying. So they shut down the camp, and the movie centers on them reopening the camp, and then all of the camp counselors that would be working there trying to fix it up, and then they slowly start to die like one by one. And this is more of a whodunit because you don't know who the actual killer is. There's a couple red herrings along the way, but it's not until the end that you actually figure out who it is. Now, what are you guys' opinions of this one?
Want me to go? I initially didn't like it because like you go into it and you want Jason really bad. You're like, oh, Jason's cool with a hockey mask and a machete that he rarely uses, but like, and then it's like, oh, kill her mommy. It's like, oh, but I think it holds up. I like it more as time went on. I think I could say that for most of these. They kind of grew on me after watching them more. And I kind of like the whodunit, because you don't get that. I guess you do in slashers, but not all of them. Because most of the time it was like the better known ones. It's like, okay, that's Michael Myers, that's Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, it's never really a whodunit with that, unless it's like a completely masked killer, like Scream maybe. So, obviously, this would be a spoiler, but if you've seen Scream, you know this. The original killer in Friday the 13th is not Jason Voorhees, it's his mom. Now, one thing I don't like about that is they don't... she's not in the movie until like the third act, and then she shows up, and then I don't know, like a few minutes later you find out she's the killer. So it's like, if not the kind of whodunit where it's like you
like
could have saw it coming.
You see her like partially through. It's just like, hey, it's Mrs. Voorhees.
And they could have did that because she's the cook. So I don't know why she couldn't.
That was a problem I would have had. I would have put her in it a little bit more. But besides that, I think gore-wise, I mean, like, if you looked at the stuff that came before it, really wasn't heavy on the gore, like you were saying, like Halloween and Texas Chainsaw. I mean, those, as they went down after this,
they copied Friday.
I would say this was a copy with more gore of those, and then they copied it. So.
I think it's good to say that Tom Savini, who we'll probably bring up multiple times, did the gore effects for this movie.
Always fun. And
it definitely shows, because, for one, Kevin Bacon's in this movie, if you didn't know, and there's a part where right after he has sex, he gets a arrow right up from under the bed through his neck. That actually looks really good.
Yeah. And I would suggest watching stuff of how they did it. It was pretty cool. Sylvani's always creative and disturbing.
I think he was right off the success of Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was director Sean S. Cunningham or someone else, but they're like, hey, Dawn of the Dead was a good movie. Let's go bring that guy in to do the effects. So much different type of movie, but he accomplished the same thing. And then Tom Savini, after that, went on to do quite a bit of slasher films within the genre. What is your guys' opinion of the first one?
Actually, I do like it. And I like it, like, first impressions, I liked it. I mean, it is kind of odd that, like, you know, Freddy isn't prominent in it at all, versus, like, you know, the whole series. Like, how all the movies feature him, and, like, the mask isn't even in it. It's, like, I know what it's made out of. What is it? It's, like, that bag over the face.
Yeah, bag one's in the second one.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Alright.
But we'll talk about that next.
My bad.
I know, you're fine. James, what do you think of the first one?
I liked it too. I mean, I know like originally it wasn't supposed to be about Jason, and it just kind of broke off into its own thing with Jason. But I like the whole suspense.
Yeah,
and it,
much
her
different.
point of view, you kind of wondering who's actually behind it.
Yeah, because it's like a whodunit one, it's like pretty much any time you see the killer, it's from their point of view as it's coming at you. Which is not what they did too much in the other ones, because it's like, oh, I want to see Jason instead of seeing from his eyes. So that was definitely interesting, but it is a much different kind of movie than most of the other films in the franchise.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how they did that. Like, I've known people that didn't know that. Like, I went into the movie knowing who the killer was, because you know everyone knows that for some reason if you're into horror movie. Yeah, Scream kind of gave it away. But then, like, I've had people go into it thinking it's a Jason, and they're like, oh, it's Jason, and then it's like, wow, that's an old lady. And then I guess that'd be disappointing, but like, you have to think about going into it like originally it did, where it was just kind of like, no one thought about Jason, really. Like, oh, that's just a retarded kid that drowned.
Yeah, like, no one thought, like, oh, Jason's in this movie. Like, they didn't even know who Jason was.
Yeah.
But originally I wasn't a big fan, but I eventually, like, after watching it over, like, I want to say 3 or 4 times, I really enjoyed the movie.
It grows on you.
The soundtrack's good.
Oh,
I
yes.
like
That was, Harry Manfredini is the guy who did the soundtrack, and he came back for most of the sequels and reworked his score. But that whole thing that he like made up there was just amazing. I would never have thought of that.
I would say it's up there with like the Halloween song.
That would be just up there with John Carpenter's score.
How did they create that?
There was the guy by Harry Manfredini. He saw like the movie, and at the end, like the Betsy Palmer, who plays Mrs. Voorhees, says, in a Jason voice, like, kill her, mommy, kill her. And so he took the words kill and mommy. So he said the first thing kill, then mom was ma. And he said it in this like reverberation machine. I don't know exactly what it was, but when you say it once, it kind of like echoes a little bit and like sounds all distorted. And you can't like it's not really recognizable as saying kill mommy, but it was still, I don't know, unique. I don't know how you come up with something like that. Like
it's like
I would never come up with anything.
It'll be in
like
like
that.
every movie pretty. I don't know if it was in every one. I have to rewatch it.
I think there's a few, if not.
Yeah.
But the vast majority.
Probably the weird ones in this area. But yeah.
It's good. Definitely like iconic.
Yeah.
So next we have is Friday the 13th Part 2, which was released 1 year later in 1981, I believe. It basically it follows like the same storyline. It's connected, which in the future sequels, some of them aren't connected. But this one shows the girl who survived, the survivor girl from the first movie. Her name's Alice. She it opens with her like she survived, having defeated Mrs. Voorhees, and then someone shows up and just kills her. Right in the opening, out of nowhere.
I thought that
so
was
they,
really weird.
they get rid of the survivor girl right away. So then it fast forward to like 5 years, and they're like trying to open the camp again, and it's just like a new set of counselors.
Hey, what happened
before.
this time?
And same thing starts to happen. A lot of people just start dropping dead, but this time you kind of see like more of like a manly figure behind it. And I don't remember if it's more so like the whodunit kind of thing, but you normally don't see the person too much, but you do see that it is like some burly person with a burlap sack on his head. And I want to say he uses the pickaxe quite a bit.
Yeah.
So the machete for Jason is not quite established yet. So what?
It's never really quite established.
Not really.
They
It
don't
was just
use
kind
it
of. It's not as used as much as you'd expect.
expect.
Yeah. Also with it, there's the survivor girl this time around named is Jenny, who's one of the better ones I would say for the franchise. This is later on in the movie after people start dropping dead, but she finds a shrine in a little shack in the woods with Mrs. Voorhees' severed head from the previous movie that Alice chopped off. And it's revealed that Jason is now not actually like a little boy that drowned, but is actually a grown-up guy wearing a burlap sack on his head.
Just been living in the woods this whole time. Like they thought he drowned. He just swam to another bank and lived in the woods.
Like people might think that there might be some like he might not be like a realistic killer. There might be some type of like magic or I don't know what word I'm looking for.
Yeah, they all get to that point.
Yeah,
so
but
no one cares.
Like a supernatural. That's the word. A supernatural killer. So I like to view this more as the human Jason.
Yeah, this is like where I would consider human Jason.
But still, how did he survive the drowning? Who knows?
How did he survive on his own?
But basically, this is more like the less supernatural, more realistic Jason living in the woods, and he must have witnessed his mom's head get cut off by Alice in the previous movie.
Never thought to say hello before that.
Hence,
Just like, oh, mom's dead.
Hence why he went and go killed Alice. Now, one thing I don't understand is
how did he find out?
that how did he find Alice? I don't know how he found Alice because she wasn't living near Camp Crystal Lake, so Jason must have like hopped on a bus to head over there.
So he's just that big guy with a burlap sack just sitting on the bus.
I guess so.
Not unusual, probably for like New York or.
And like, I guess he knows how to make it there. Like
he's a very smart. He's a very smart retarded guy.
He's smart when he needs to be. Anyways, that's pretty much the basic plot of the movie. Another camp opens, more people die. This Jason is not the iconic Jason with the hockey mask yet. Any opinions?
I would say this one's very generic in how it is, just like the classic slasher. There's not much like difference that's unique to it. I mean, they killed this survivor girl from the first one, which I thought was funny. I mean, I can see why that might annoy somebody.
It's funny, but I normally don't like.
Yeah, I don't like when they do that.
Unceremoniously taking out survivor
It's just like
girls.
we wanted a new thing, but wow, we have a loose end, which I don't know necessarily. They didn't need to kill her.
Most slasher movies don't fix that loose end. It's like next movie, more people.
But if you notice with a lot of them though, as the movies go on, then they're like, hey, let's bring back the first girl and kill her. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
But like, I would say like it was if you like slasher movies, it's a good one. Just like those, it's very stereotypical. Just like, like young adults in the woods, they're dying.
It's a stereotypical Jason movie, but at the same time, it's different due to the fact that he doesn't look like Jason.
No.
And
he gets his mask taken off at one point. I remember he looked really cool.
And he has like really long hair and
Yeah,
I think he has a beard. He has something.
He almost reminds.
Yeah, it's a weird
He reminds
combination.
me of Sloth from Goonies.
I can see it.
When
That's where they got it from.
Yeah, and it's just like it's like masked off, and it's just like he looks funny.
Yeah, his Jason's face pretty much every movie they show a little bit of it. It never really stays too consistent. Like it's a basic design, but they
I for like the eye.
Yeah, the eye like being deformed, whichever side it is.
Yeah, I would say though, like they were consistency, like it changed a lot, but there's like reasons it changed, and I mean we'll get to this later, but like the cut mark on his mask kind of stays. We'll talk about that one later, but I would say like they took it, and I like how they always did with Jason. It's just like, hey, we want to change him a little bit, and I kind of like when movies down the line do that. So I mean, Jason goes through like dramatic changes. You get to Jason X, it's like between all these, it's like
like other people, like Michael Myers is pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
Freddy always looks the same. Jason does like have some
I like
in what
that.
he's wearing, the way his mask even looks, for better or for worse. What did you guys think about this one?
I think it's like a typical sequel, but I mean, like if you enjoy the first one, you'll enjoy the second one, obviously. So I mean, like I enjoyed it, of course, because I liked the first one, and like we were saying earlier, I like how his face is just kind of seen in that stuff. Because like I know a major thing when I was younger, I wanted to see like just how messed up his face was. Yeah,
we're bad people.
Yeah.
I get where you come from.
Yeah.
What do you think, James?
I don't have too much to say about it. Really, just
very generic.
it was just a sequel, pretty much.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the first one with. It was more focused on the brutality of it.
Which
rather than,
it
like,
did
the
have good.
suspicion.
It did have good effects. I
Was
mean,
that
all
the
of them.
one was bed kill? Was
Thought so.
thing goes through the bed?
I know there was one scene that didn't make any sense at all. Cause,
What's this?
she was like hiding underneath the bed, and he was waiting for her with a pickaxe. And when she came out from under there, for some reason, he was standing on a chair. So even higher up. And of course, when he swung it, I think he actually fell off the.
I don't remember that, but that seems about right.
I actually watched it recently to kind of refresh my memory.
I meant to.
Standing on the chair. That'd be funny.
That
If it
doesn't
just
make any
broke.
sense.
He's trying to be all stealthy, and a chair just breaks and falls down.
It's like, oh, he's gone. No, I'm on a chair.
That is odd.
He's very smart for a retarded kid that drowned. I mean, for somebody that wasn't able to swim, he was able to survive in the woods.
Like I like to view it as like a realistic. He's a human Jason.
He's a human Jason.
I can see the
that's what I call
supernatural angle just
Yeah.
to begin with, but
Maybe something in the lake.
yeah, there's something.
There's something in the lake.
Something in the water. Okay, so the next installment was Friday 13th Part 3 or Part 3D. So obviously it was filmed in 3D, which was kind of just a marketing tool at the time.
Yeah, it was like those classic 3Ds when, like, stuff that shouldn't be 3D was 3D. Like, instead of like now where it's like everything's like this, it was just kind of the classic like somebody's putting a pull up, 3D.
I think there's also like a what's that ball on the
Yeah,
string?
it's like a ball in the string thing.
No, they did utilize two times that I'll talk about the movie in a moment. There was 2 times I did like the 3D. One was he gets like a harpoon gun and goes right into the girl's eye.
Yeah, I like that one.
And then there was another one which the effect looked really corny, but it's still cool. Was he just squeezes the guy's head and the eyes pop out at you and you just kind of like "Groo," and then they fall.
Yeah, I mean it was kind of a tongue in cheek like.
But it is what it is. Anyways, with this one, I'm pretty sure it takes place the next day after Part 2, and it doesn't take place at a summer camp anymore. It takes place at also in Crystal Lake, but a nearby house that a bunch of teenagers are going in to party basically for the weekend or whatever. And Jason takes refuge in the barn after what ended the second movie. And pretty much anyone who goes in that barn ends up dying, and eventually Jason starts going out to kill people. I don't know exactly what his motive is for killing people. It's not like they're on his Camp Crystal Lake anymore or counselors, but it's does anybody really care why Jason kills the people? They just want Jason to kill the people
in a very violent, gory way.
So was this one is not also plot wise? There's not much to it that's different, but it takes place at the house instead. This is also the one where Jason gets his hockey mask. which is he gets it from like one of like the best characters in Friday the 13th, named Shelly.
Oh, exactly.
It's like the curly hair, who's just like the big loser.
I felt bad for that kid.
Actually, they in the Friday the 13th game, they just announced that they're going to bring Shelly into the game as a playable like counselor. So that's always fun. And then I think there's also the biker chick Fox.
Yeah, those are probably
She's
two
also in the
of
game
my
now.
favorite characters.
So I really love Shelly though. Do you guys remember that character?
I don't remember him that much.
I liked him
He was a
because
loser.
he was such a loser, and like you could tell he tried to be liked by the other people, but he has no redemption. He dies. He dies a loser with no friends, and that was just like always the part like, oh no,
Poor Shelly.
I like that kid. I could relate with him. People don't like me either.
I would say like overall, I really enjoyed this one. Like it wouldn't probably be like in my top street or whatever, but it was an enjoyable one. This 3D, I actually like. Even if you're not watching in 3D, it's fun.
I think I agree that it's probably not in the. I think character-wise, it has some of my favorite characters. Because like Fox, I really like her, and they put her in the game.
Yeah, she fights with Jason, puts up a fight. Most people don't put up.
I mean, she's this really cool black biker chick, and I don't know, I kind of like that. I mean, her and Shelly were probably the two. I mean, there was like, was there any other big characters in this one?
That I remember, not necessarily.
Did that kid do the handstand down the hallway?
That was it. That was the one. Yeah, there's a guy doing a handstand down the hallway.
Yeah.
And Jason just walks up, and the guy like looks up at Jason and just right down on his crotch.
Right down Main Street. It was.
That was a good kill. Like, there was like nothing leading up to it, like.
That was crazy. Like.
That was a good one though.
I mean, that was probably one of the best kills in all the movies.
Yeah, that's definitely.
If you get a ball kill, I mean,
I don't remember like who the character was, but he died a cool death, which matters. I don't know, James. Did you remember anything about this one?
Just the gang, Shelly, and him getting the mask. It's probably the most like memorable scene.
I think those are probably the best scene. Like, because like it's a typical slasher movie, but it's got pretty good characters and like the mask. That's the most iconic. Like you don't picture Baghead Jason.
No.
When you think of Friday the 13th or Mrs. Voorhees, you just think
of
Jason's hockey mask.
Like the bag was more like creepy, but
the
mask is definitely more intimidating.
Now,
Iconic
one thing with the mask is maybe at the time it wasn't like when first one came out like, oh, Jason's wearing that mask, that's so cool. But at this point in time in 2017,
it's like, oh,
it's
Jason.
so iconic that you think of Jason, and it's so ingrained in our popular culture that it might not be as scary.
Yeah.
But I do agree the Baghead was probably more scary.
Yeah, I would like to see a killer in a movie. I'm sure there is a killer in the movie like that.
Was it Baghead?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a movie. I've only seen
Strangers,
Strangers or something with it.
Yeah.
Which they're making a sequel to, I think out next year. And then there was another movie called The Town That Dreaded Sundown that they made like a sequel, remake, reboot to. I've seen the reboot, but I haven't seen the original. But I have heard good things. However, like I kind of thought Jason looked just like the guy from Town That Dreaded Sundown.
I know when we were like doing movie stuff, we've always toyed around with like bag stuff as an idea. But I think it was like when they were making it, they probably weren't thinking like, hey, this is Jason for the rest of the.
They just thought, oh, he has a new mask.
Yeah.
Another outfit.
I don't know why they changed the mask. Like, why did they get rid of the Baghead to go to a mask? Or why did they
maybe they thought maybe he'll get a new mask every little while.
Who knows? But
then they're just like, hey, people like this, we're keeping it.
It was a good movie though, and it ends with spoiler. It ends with Jason being defeated and I think getting like an axe to like somewhere I think in his head, and he just seemingly dies in the barn. Now obviously he doesn't die because we're on part 3, but that's how it ends, and they think they defeated Jason. And I'm pretty sure the survivor girl lives through this one.
Doesn't she hang him after it too?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think he got hung first,
Yeah.
and you think he's dead, but then like the rope breaks and he falls down.
He pulls his mask up and
Yeah,
stares at her.
that's its first time you see his face in that one. And then there's like I think a dream sequence at the end that was kind of mimicking the first movie.
It was like a obvious not parody, but like
homage
to like, hey.
But it was still good.
Overall, good movie, I think.
Yeah, I liked it. Not my favorite, but definitely a good one. Okay, so next one is Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which is the fourth one.
Last one.
Came out in 1984, and obviously it's not the last
one.
But at the time, they really thought that it was going to be the last one.
Huh.
Was this one? It picks up with a third one, and so it's not. So the third one took place on the 14th, Saturday the 14th.
Yeah.
Now this one will be Sunday the 15th. So it just slowly, not on the 13th anymore.
So why is it called Friday the 13th when it's not on Friday the 13th?
There's, no one really thought too far into it. Anyways, with the fourth movie, they then went to Jason was taken to the morgue, and he wakes up in the morgue because he's not actually dead. Starts killing people, and then leaves and just head back into Crystal Lake area. Now at the same time, there's a bunch of people who rent a big house to go party. Weird that happens again. And across the street from this, or a little ways away, there's Tommy Jarvis, who is a little kid, lives with his mom and I want to say sister. I might be wrong. Anyways, there's a little kid named Tommy Jarvis who's living there, who becomes an important part in the future movies with him. Anyways, with Tommy Jarvis, he's a little kid played by Corey Feldman.
Best actor.
Who I love Corey Feldman. You might not.
I get why.
He was great music.
Good old Corey Feldman.
He got touched by producers in Hollywood. Just gonna put that out there.
He
probably on set.
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein.
I sometimes he does maybe overact. I like his overacting. I think he's just so much fun to
He didn't
watch.
overact in this because he was a little kid.
This is I think right before the Goonies.
He was good in Stand By Me in the Goonies, I think. Yeah.
So as a kid, he was good.
I got
So anyways, there's also a guy who is looking for his sister who was a previous victim. Not looking for his sister, but kind of looking for his sister, tracking down Jason or whatever, because his sister died in the previous movie. I forget which movie or which character it was, but they did link it up. And that Tommy Jarvis' sister kind of gets liking with her. Anyways, Jason shows up, starts killing the people at the party, and then Tommy Jarvis and all of them get thrown into it. And one other thing of note that I liked is one of the people at the party house is played by Crispin Glover, who is Marty McFly's dad in the Back to the Future movies. And he's a big loser in this movie, but he has the funniest dance that I've ever seen in a movie. I can't really describe it. It's kind of and he's trying to turn on a girl, and it's not it is working. Somehow that dance is working.
Take my virginity.
I would say just watch that scene. You can probably look up Crispin Glover Friday the 13th dancing. You can probably find a weird dance. Anyways, this movie saw the return of Tom Savini as a lot of. I'm not sure if he had any part in the other two in the street. He might have, but in the fourth one he really went balls to the walls. The gore is awesome in this movie. There's a good one where a guy that a projection screen gets a machete through the projection screen and kills him. Corkscrew thing into someone's hand, and the best one though is how they defeat Jason, which is also a spoiler. But in this one, Tommy Jarvis distracts Jason by shaving his head to look like him as a kid. So then
he looks hilarious.
Jason is freezes. Tommy Jarvis then takes a machete, hits him in the head, and then Jason falls down and his head slides down.
That was one of the best effects in all the movies.
And you can see his head going on his way down.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my. That's probably
retarded before this.
So, what do you guys like about this movie?
I liked it. It's been a while since I've seen it, but weren't they watching porn or something later in the night on the projector screen? Yeah.
That's what you take away from the movie.
Yeah, that was really that stuck out for me.
Yeah,
I don't
they did.
know why.
I think that's a projector screen that they.
Yeah, there was the one character, didn't he? He started just watching it by himself or something. Yeah, everybody else went off to have sex or something. He just sat there.
When in Rome. I thought it was a good movie. I mean, as good as all the others. The last kill was one of the best because I know it was really difficult for them to do, but the whole head sliding down thing was really awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, Corey Feldman was good in it, especially Tommy Jarvis hairless on that was little patches of hair everywhere. It was really funny.
He shaved his head fast.
Yeah, really fast. He didn't cut himself either, but he was I thought overall it was a good movie. Had a cool Jason kill.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a if you liked like 2 and 3, you'll like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's not
thought
much difference. It had more good kills. If you like good kills,
I thought it was kind of like a cut above like the other ones.
It was like once like Tommy Jarvis, especially in this one, came out, it was a better character. It was a nice character to kind of have in these movies, especially as a little kid.
Yeah, like a little kid as the main protagonist killing.
I'm not quite sure if like. And if this came first, because like a lot of horror slash movies started doing like little kids fighting, like being the antagonist or protagonist, and then against the slasher villain. And I don't know if this one was the first one to do it, but I thought.
I don't know if it was, but it definitely like was much different.
I would say I would say
Yes,
Tommy
it's
Jarvis
young
was
boy.
probably out of all the like survivor. Girls, boys, men, whatever you want to call them. He's probably one of the more like iconic ones.
Yeah.
Just a name. I mean, I know you could get some from like Nightmare on Elm Street. There's Nancy, who's probably right up there with them. There's but I think overall, like having Tommy Jarvis is probably the most iconic character.
Tommy
to me, at
Jarvis
least.
would be like he's like Jason's mortal enemy. I would say.
Yeah.
Like, he appears in future movies, which we'll talk about, and he was originally a kid, which is really interesting, taking on big bulky Jason.
Then they're just like, hey, I want to make him older, so they made him older.
Yeah, there's a reason they ended up going that route, though. Anyways, what did you think, James?
I thought it was a pretty good way to end the series.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a good way to end the series.
like he's like literally dead at that point from seeing that. I mean, of course he might come back.
See, the thing is, I always get with these, it's like
They
kill him, and it's like, but how did not like A, B, if like D kill him, how did an A, B, and C kill him? Because they're just as bad. I guess once you get into Supernatural, which I wouldn't quite call him Supernatural at this point.
I would say, I want to say this is how he died.
Yeah, I would say this is how he turned. I mean, we'll talk about that.
When we get
Wasn't this supposed to, didn't they repeat the series basically? Or I never understood that.
Yeah, this was like, I never actually thought of it this way, but yeah, this is like the first series of it. Yeah.
Like
that's actually
all four of these go. Actually, all four of them go together because like the first one sets up the mother, the second one is then Jason, but the first one was like the backstory of Jason. Then 2, 3, and 4 all like flow together, which some of the sequels don't quite flow together.
Oh god! Once they start getting back this way, it's like
But they're overall, it probably is like
it was a fitting into the first series. I would say. I think James was right.
Good one though.
Anything else, James?
I like how the special effects never got cheesier as the movies.
Yeah.
As they got to the fourth one, it still was
pretty
pretty realistic.
As long as you keep practical effects, movies are good. You can be terrible movies, but practical effects make them good. Like, I know they didn't have CGI then, but like, if they had CGI like then, and they used CGI, this would have been movies that people were just like, eh. Because there's a lot of horror
movies
that people like are like,
that was done well. But slasher movies don't have the budget to do it well most of the time.
I think the effects are better in the end over CGI at times.
There's actually like something there to work with instead of all having to act around
it's better for practical effects to look kind of fake than CGI to look fake.
Yeah. Practical effects when they look fake, like, they're still fun because it's like, that's hilarious.
And CGI is just
CGI is like, I don't want to look at that.
I mean, like, hey, it's Barney and it's supposed to be a dinosaur movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I get from practical effects versus like, because like you get like, I'm getting off topic, but like Jurassic Park, that like, I know some of it was like, but like the animatronic ones, if you try to CGI that, just all CGI up close especially, it'd be like, oh, that's
especially
hilarious.
Blade Runner used a lot of practical effects too.
Those are good movies. Okay, so the next one was, after the final chapter, Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. And one thing I found out is that the shortest amount of time between installments for Friday the 13th is the final chapter and A New Beginning. So there was a very small amount of time they were like, you know what, we're done with the franchise. Like, they were the quick turnaround.
Like, we get money.
Now, this one takes place many years after, but it starts with a little thing at the beginning was Corey Feldman coming back as Tommy Jarvis. in like a dream sequence, and then he wakes up when it's him being much older in a mental institution. Because of a bunch of troubles he's had was just dealing with...
Yeah, you could tell at the end of the last one that he was kind of messed up.
Yeah.
After
so
all
that's where
he's a little kid, he just killed a guy. I could see why he's a little messed up.
At the very end, he just starts like hacking away at Jason's body. But I think the reason that they didn't focus on like a young Tommy Jarvis like immediately after is because I think the Goonies were... They were working on that, and Corey Feldman was going to the Goonies. I'm not positive on that, but I think it was like around the same time, and he wasn't available for like a whole movie. So anyways, much in the future, Tommy Jarvis in a mental institution, and it basically one person like dies in the opening. Do you remember like the chocolate bar kill? There's like some weird guy with a chocolate bar going like, "Hey, do you want some? Do you want some?"
Oh, and then the
pisses off a guy with an axe, and the guy with the axe just kills him. No,
that was the weird. That was like the weirdest
came out of nowhere.
Like, part where it was just like, this guy's obviously like a little slow, but why would you put like a guy with anger problems in the same with an axe?
Why would he let him chop wood?
Yeah, he just flat out like murders him.
And it comes out, and nothing to do with Jason. It comes out of nowhere.
That's always weird in movies. Like in horror movies, I would not suggest like always having a kill that's not related, especially at the very beginning.
People shouldn't die from stuff that's unrelated to a killer.
Yeah.
Or the actual thing that's happening in a horror movie. It's just weird.
I just thought, like, were we watching that with our dad?
Yeah.
And we were like trying to bet on who's gonna die first, and it didn't.
No one saw that guy dying. I think like Dad might have saw that, but like that guy dying, but no one predicted he was just gonna die from the random guy with the axe. But you never see it
I think our dad predicted, like, I think the fat kid with the chocolate bar is going to die first. And then it was just like right after my dad said that, the guy was just like, ah!
Anyways, after like that, people start dying, and eventually it's revealed like, oh, it's Jason killing people.
Oh no, what a surprise.
Yeah, sorry. Tommy Jarvis teams up with some other people this time around and starts to kill, to try to get away from Jason. Just interesting characters in this one that I'll talk about.
They're kind of in a special place, that's why.
But basically, Tommy Jarvis is the main character this time around, but he's much less interesting. Like, street people play Tommy Jarvis, and this is definitely my least favorite Tommy Jarvis. He's just kind of like a weird, like, teenager, young adult. Anyways, and this is also a spoiler, but at the very end, they push Jason off, and he falls like down on some farm equipment and gets impaled. And it's revealed like, oh, it's not Jason, it's the ambulance driver from the
very beginning that got really upset.
The kid with the chocolate bar away, who apparently the kid with the chocolate bar was his son. So, yeah.
I mean, there are hints that it's really not Jason because it's got blue instead of the red.
The hockey man.
And then when main guy.
Tommy Jarvis.
I blank. When Tommy Jarvis like sees Jason like in a like hallucination or whatever, he has red on his mask.
Yeah. And it's a different mask.
So
if you notice it.
So I didn't notice that my first time through. It was just kind of like. I'm like, oh, this is probably supernatural. Oh, he's hallucinating, or is he? Is this like a
who knows?
And then it's just like, oh, it was an ambulance driver. That's really depressing.
Now, one thing when you watch these reviews is notice, at least in my opinion, when movies are unrelated to the killer, and that's happened more than it should. Like, I'm not a big fan of those. Every now and then, like maybe it works, but this one, all in all, I don't like that twist.
Yeah, I think it was a good movie. To these standards, I wouldn't put it up there with like Silence of the Lamb, like good movie.
Also, like Jason takes the beating, like the guy, like the ambulance driver, Roy Burns, I think's his name.
Roy Burns.
He takes a beating like he's Jason the whole movie.
Yeah,
but then it's revealed like, oh, no, he's defeated.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like
he's a normal human who just they have this Jason level tolerance to pain.
Yeah, like it's. I felt like. It was I think they were going for a good twist, or like, well, he was dead. We said that was the final one. And I should have knew. But, I don't know, I kind of went into it like, it's probably the weakest, so up until that point
up until
to me.
Far, my least
because, like, I was disappointed when it wasn't Jason. I mean, I get what they were doing. They're trying to M. Night Shyamalan it. But, like, I didn't like the twist.
And the movie ends with Tommy Jarvis putting on the Jason mask.
Oh my God.
Going to the camera
Were they thinking at that point?
They wanted to continue to franchise as Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis being the killer. Oh my God.
And obviously that didn't take well, and they went in a much different direction, which we'll get to.
I think was
The much better direction.
I can understand why they thought of that, because at that point it wasn't really the whole Jason is invincible.
Yeah, Jason's
he
dead.
wasn't, and he also wasn't this huge pop culture icon.
Yeah,
at that point.
So I see why they wanted to take it in that direction.
But I guess fans at the time were not a big fan of it. So also when I said there was a lot of interesting characters in this one, there's this little black boy was I remember he had the raincoat on.
I liked him.
He lives through it, and he teams up with Tommy Jarvis. There's a redneck family that is it's funny, but they're kind of annoying.
They were annoying, funny.
Very stereotypical. And then definitely one of my all-time favorite characters was, I don't remember his name, but he's a black guy who looked just like Michael Jackson for no discernible reason, and he dies on a porta potty.
So Michael Jackson dies on a porta potty.
Mm.
I mean, it's better than overdosing, I guess, but I thought he was Michael Jackson. That was entirely who he was.
It was I don't even remember the actor's name, but he was in Return of the Living Dead as
he almost
the black
looked
guy.
He almost looked a lot like he did in Return of the Living Dead.
But which is also a good movie. Anyways, that's one of my favorite characters, and
I would
he's
say that's up there
he's
with,
singing
Fox
to
or
his
something.
girlfriend while on the outhouse.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable.
But the song doesn't have any lyrics to it. It's just a 3 words he repeats over and over again. And I think she died, and then he died.
He was a good character. I think it's just because he looked like Michael Jackson.
He was kind of he was the comic relief basically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comic relief in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I would say he's up there. Fox, Shelley, and I liked him. It was Michael Jackson. I mean,
it was.
I think they're like, hey, Michael Jackson's big. Let's put a guy that looks like Michael Jackson. But then they're they didn't know that Michael Jackson was going white.
Yeah. So who could have saw that one?
Yeah.
James, what did you think of this one?
I hated it. I thought it was just a weak
I
start.
wasn't in that one.
And
It's not a good way to start.
no, not at all. Because without Jason, it's not really the same. Now, if they did continue it with Tommy Jarvis and somehow got Corey Feldman, it might have been a different turn, or it might have been interesting.
But then he just get touched by more executives.
Yeah, that too. But what was I gonna say?
Yeah, I agree with your whole it is the weakest up to that point.
Yeah.
It was it had good kills. It had a cool
The characters.
Yeah, I like the characters.
At least memorable.
I don't know. I feel like Tommy Jarvis without Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I didn't like this Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
So James, before you said the first 4 are kind of like the series.
Yeah.
The way I kind of view it is there's the first 4, then there's this movie, and then there's the new series.
Yeah,
so this is one kind of in between the core series, and it's an oddball. It doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't
I would
fit
say it's
right.
the awkward middle child.
Yeah.
That's hey, this is our firstborn. We like them a lot. Hey, this is a new one. We're gonna really like them. Yeah, we don't like you.
Get
You
out of
go away.
Yeah,
I
it's.
think they realized how much they screwed up with it.
Okay, so after A New Beginning, which didn't have Jason, they followed it up with Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. So much like what they did with Halloween 3 and 4, when it was titled The Return of Michael Myers, this one's Jason Lives. So Jason is back. So anyone who's disappointed with A New Beginning, they know that Jason's back. This one came out in 1986, so about 1 year later after A New Beginning. This one also is the end of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. A new guy playing Tommy Jarvis again, who oddly enough was also in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Mm-hmm.
He was in,
Thom Matthews.
was he in 1 and 2?
Yeah, 1 and 2 of Return of the Living Dead. Anyways,
different character.
yeah, but he was a good Tommy Jarvis. He's the one
I liked
that.
him as Tommy Jarvis.
If any of you guys have played the video game,
He's the Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis that's modeled after. Now, I like Corey Feldman the most, but I do like this guy a lot. He's much better than the guy from Part 5.
Yeah, I don't even remember what the guy from Part 5 looked like.
He had glasses.
Yeah, I do not.
But one thing is just the characterization of Tommy is very inconsistent. Because in this one, he's kind of cocky. He's not this awkward, uncomfortable guy. That whole him putting Jason's mask is completely ignored. Anyways,
yeah, what happened with that? Was that supposed
nothing
to be?
happened. Anyway, it takes place later where he and one of his random friends are going to just make sure Jason's body is dead.
And the random friend is the main character in the TV shows.
I don't believe so.
Oh, really?
No.
I'm almost positive he is.
No, the main character is in Jason Goes to Hell. Main character.
Oh, he was.
Yes. Anyways, I think he's from Welcome Back, Kotter. I heard that from somewhere.
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe not though.
No, he's from something.
He's from something I know of.
Yeah, like.
Anyways, he died. He is known, but he dies fast.
He was pointless. He was just to show up and be like, "Oh, we shouldn't be doing this."
But yeah, they show up like, oh, and they open Jason's grave, and he is dead.
Flat out like.
Yep. So they're gonna like. So
crawling.
he like, Tommy Jarvis takes like the spear and take like a thing off the fence,
Yeah,
stabs
stab
Jason.
him.
But then full on Frankenstein, lightning comes down, electrifies Jason.
Very
He wakes
obvious
up,
Frankenstein reference.
kills Tommy Jarvis' friend, and Jason's on a rampage again. Which this movie also is much more comedic than I would say any of the other Friday the 13th. There's like a time when a guy's face gets slammed against a tree, and if it falls down, there's like a smiley face covered in blood. The opening is a parody of that James Bond shooting like the scope intro to all the James Bond movies, but with Jason.
Yeah, it was.
I find it pretty funny how they did it. I forget the director, but I know he had other like funny like horror comedies. But I thought like the kind of funniness worked because by that point in time, Jason has been in many movies. Part 6 has been played through so much that it's actually like it's kind of funny to just make fun of itself.
Yeah.
Was this one? Let's see. Tommy Jarvis thing goes on, like tries to warn the town, and there's also another summer camp already opened. He tries to warn the town.
The kids?
Yeah, this is the one
Like
where they
the
actually
one
have
time,
kids
yeah.
at a summer camp. So
Yeah.
the only operational summer camp in the series.
One thing I thought funny though, this is the only time they actually had kids there. No kids died.
Yeah,
I guess you don't want to be the movie that kills
Well,
off.
if I remember correctly, there's a time when Jason's standing over the bed of one of the kids
Yeah, and just doesn't do it.
who's closing her eyes because she's like, monsters aren't real, and then
Yeah.
opens it up, Jason's gone.
So
So,
does Jason not kill kids?
because that black kid from the
Doesn't
fifth
just,
one,
like,
it looked
kill
like he was
people
going for
that,
it.
mainly like just go with like sex, drugs, and violence.
Yeah.
and all that.
I think, like,
so
counselors
kids are just kind of innocent.
Yeah, but-
that's actually a very good point.
But I kind of felt like he was going after that black kid in the fifth one.
Yeah, who needs continuity?
Anyways, he doesn't kill any kids. And the town doesn't believe him, particularly like the sheriff.
Wouldn't you believe him though? After there's been numerous.
I don't know. I
Like
think the
murders.
fact he was in a mental institution probably didn't help him. But anyways, no one believed that Jason's back, but Jason starts killing people. And eventually the cops do believe, and it all takes place at the summer camp. There's a lot of good kills in this one. Tommy Jarvis, I think, is pretty good. One kill that I remember particularly is I think this is the one where they're in an RV driving down with Jason inside of it, and Jason like takes one of the girl's head and shoves it through like the aluminum siding of it,
Yeah.
like a shower
There's
or
like a-
something.
yeah.
You can see the face through it, and then like he flips the RV and he walks out unscathed because he's Jason.
That was a pretty.
This is
cool
kind of like the
sequence,
supernatural
yeah.
Jason.
Yeah, this is at the point where the supernatural Jason's, besides looks, isn't much different than the non-supernatural Jason. I mean, it's literally the same thing. They're just like the only reason he's supernatural in this one is because they needed to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, oh, we messed up. We need to bring him back.
And that brought him back. They did, because it is Jason this time around, not like good old Roy Burns, the ambulance driver. He's like he's like the Jason. This is the kind of Jason you remember. Like when you think of Jason, you think of this like slow walking guy who doesn't say anything and just
Like catches everybody.
he always somehow catches you. But like this is the look that you pretty much associate with Jason, just in a much more like a funny way. You've never seen this one, have you?
Yeah, I liked it better than the fifth
Oh,
one,
you did?
definitely.
Yeah,
And
definitely better.
I mean, people could say it's stupid, but I do like the comedic
Mhm.
effect to it.
Yeah, it does. It opened with that James Bond parody, because
Yeah, why not?
Jason, James Bond, why not? Have you seen this one, James?
Yeah, this is the one that I remember the least of. I just know the fact that they bring back Jason and just kind of launches off into a whole.
Whole new
It is
thing,
a
so they did say
same type. Like Friday the 13th movies are like they're all kind of
They're
the
the
same
same.
if you think about it.
Oh yeah, wouldn't this be the one where he is undead now?
Yeah, I would say now he's supernatural because like he came back from the
He
dead.
does not.
Frankenstein
He
style.
doesn't take off his mask in this one, does he?
No, but he starts with his mask off.
Okay, yeah.
So you see
See
his
his
dead
light
body, and
Yeah,
then his
that's
eyes
true.
open. But for some reason, Tommy Jarvis also shows like the mask down on his dead body. I don't know why. So that's how he has the mask. It's the same mask because you can see like the cut mark
Yeah.
from when he was defeated. In
That's
part
one thing,
4.
like I've said before.
There's a lot of continuity with
the
like,
continuity
cut
with
mark.
the head part that all throughout.
Yeah,
even
they
when
keep
he-
it up till like goes to hell.
Yeah.
Do you think this is like when he starts becoming kind of that cult classic in
Yeah,
a way?
this is
you
the
know?
Jason that you remember more so.
Yeah, like when I used to think of Jason when I was younger, not seeing the movies, I thought of like this big, like kind of zombie like guy. It's not a zombie, but like he's dead. He's like supernatural, big machete.
Yeah.
That's what I got from him. I mean, I thought with the movie it was better than the last one by far because it had Jason. It wasn't. I like the comedic stuff because I think like slash movies, especially around that time period, a lot of them were really starting to make fun of
I'm
themselves.
pretty sure this is after A Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
came out, which the first one wasn't exactly funny, but it was definitely making fun of itself a
I
little
think
bit.
I like that. That's kind of what I like, and like,
Mm.
I like tongue in cheek stuff and stuff.
It was very tongue in cheek.
So I like that type of stuff. So I thought it was a good movie. I mean, to the Friday the 13th standards, it was one of the better.
Definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, it had a lot of good stuff. I mean, I guess Jason doesn't kill kids, but he was gonna try to kill.
Mhm.
I mean, he was trying to kill the little black kid. He was
And
trying
Tommy
to
Jarvis
kill
when he was a kid,
Tommy
so,
Jarvis. So
like,
there's no continuity.
But it doesn't really matter because
Unless, like-
Jason kills people in funny ways.
Yes, I mean
think
that's how kills should be. Like, they should have some really gory, just like violent ones, and there should be an occasional funny one.
I think this is the one where one of the cops get like completely like bent like a bat.
Yeah.
I think it was like the main cop too, so that was cool. I don't have much other to say about this, but I would say it's probably like either it might be my second favorite so far, up in like except for like the final chapter, which I think I like the most. But Jason Lives was definitely a step in the right direction
Yeah.
after the misfire that was the new beginning.
I mean, it was them doing damage control,
Mm-hmm.
and it was definitely like, oh crap, we need to bring Jason because this is where we're not gonna get more movies if we don't bring him back. So,
But they did, and obviously this is not the end. We're only there.
yeah.
So it was, overall I would say it was a very good film. Definitely one of the better Friday the 13th. Okay, so next up is Friday the 13th Part 7, A New Blood, which is essentially just known as Carrie versus Jason. Because it was highly influenced
That is so
by Carrie.
true.
They actually, I think the idea originally was to have Carrie, like, you know, Brian De
That
Palma
would, for
versus
some reason,
Jason.
that to me would have been
But
worse.
they couldn't get like any rights to that, so they just decided to make their own girl who has telekinetic powers,
Carrie.
and fight Jason.
In this one, isn't this where he's underwater?
Yes.
Yeah, he like at the end of the we don't really talk
Yeah,
about
at the
that.
end of the last
Yeah,
one, Tommy Jarvis wrapped him, like chained him
Yeah.
to a boulder, put him in a crystal
So like
lake, and that's how it.
Jason's been just like not dead or anything, just underwater in a chain like this.
Waterlogged.
Yeah, he's all. I like how he looks. He's all waterlogged.
And was this one the telekinetic girl like trying to like fix her problems with like some doctor at their house, accidentally unleashes the chain and Jason walks out of the water. And then at the same time this is going on, there's a house next door that a bunch of teenagers are going to party in. And so that's where like all the cannon fodder comes from.
You always need the cannon.
You always need them.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's basically one thing actually very important to mention. This is the first one with Kane Hodder as Jason, who went on to play Jason in like other.
He's who you think
movies.
about when you think of Jason.
He has the best like look. Not all look, but the best movements.
Yeah,
he's very good stuntman.
He's kind of like like you said, the movements. He's kind of, I don't want to say invented how Jason kind of is when you think about him, but that's kind of what he is. He was heavily influenced by like the character by him because he kind of went out of his way to like move a certain way and stuff like that.
And like you think of Robert Englund with Freddy, Doug Bradley's Pinhead. You think of Kane Hodder with Jason. Even though he hasn't been in the majority of movies, he's the only one to actually.
He's been in the plurality
to become. He's the only one ever turned to be Jason.
No, yeah.
And he did it four times.
It's impressive.
So, anyways, with this movie, I also think like it's a little funny at times, but basically Jason just goes around killing people. This like the same characters, and it ends with like the telekinetic girl's house. I think Tina's her name.
Yeah,
It ends in her house, and it's just basically it ends just her fighting Jason. Like this plot wise doesn't have much going for it, but one thing I will say is that Jason looks the best in this movie by far.
Yeah, I would agree. He looks the best. Like I like he's like dead and waterlogged, and like I think that's pretty cool.
Like his mask breaks
at the
like
very end
in the fight,
and
and it's like his face is
He looks
it's a
fine.
zombie now. You can tell it's not
like
human.
he's not a human.
But
anymore.
it's I definitely like the whole makeup effects on this, and you can see like some of his bones through his body from just parts that just deteriorated away.
I mean, so he's dead at the end of this one.
Yeah. Well, at this movie ends with very badly, I would say, is because Tina, like when she was younger, accidentally got angry and her powers, she didn't control it, and it caused her dad, who was on the pier, to fall to the water and die. So at the very end, Jason's on the pier, and her dad comes out of the water, not looking any really different, comes out of the water and drags Jason down.
Yeah.
That's how it ends. So, what is your guys' opinion of this movie?
Not a fan. I don't like the telekinetic thing. I don't like the girl. Jason. I mean, the best thing it's got going for it is Jason's look.
He does look good.
Besides that, I liked like when the mask broke. I thought that was cool. The dad coming out of the water. I thought that was a little forced and like it made no sense. Like, was he down there the whole time, or he just pop in there when she did it? Like, they didn't really have like her powers. Like, if they're telekinetic, like why were they doing other stuff too? And I like Carrie, so it's not like anything against that. But I just think it was, hey, we're gonna try to bank off Carrie. And I don't think it landed. It's one of my least favorite ones. But I mean, the only thing that's got going for it, it's got kills. I mean, you'll like it if you like them, but it's the weakest, one of the weakest to me. I don't know if it's the weakest. I just don't like. I don't like if it's Tina or whatever. I don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nothing against the actress, but I'm not a big fan. I apologize if you're.
Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I've seen this one. I mean, at this point. I mean, for the last few, I wasn't really taking the series seriously, so I mean, like...
It doesn't.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, like, I'll watch it again.
It's like, overall, I would say it's like a good... Like, it's a good Friday the 13th movie, as in it delivers on what you'd expect, kills. I think it was this one that actually had, I don't know if this was a sleeping bag kill or not. I think it might have been.
I believe it.
So I might be wrong with that. Don't hold me to it. But the sleeping bag kill was a very good one.
That's an iconic kill.
The girl's in a sleeping bag. He takes it and just one time against a tree and she's dead.
Wasn't it initially more?
Initially,
but they had to cut it down.
He just kept like banging her against a tree.
Yeah,
on that one. Banging her against a tree, and blood would go flying everywhere. But the MPAA cut it down.
Yeah.
Also, is that I remember I was showing you two guys on the TV. Where there's a time when he like takes someone's head and you can see it crush it. Better than like the eyes popping out in part straight.
Like a
and
pop can.
Blood just everywhere, and they cut that none of that kill is in it at all. The guy dies.
It's a shame back then they cut so much for movies.
And the footage, like we found some grainy footage of it online, and you can find it if you look up a new Blood cut footage.
Looking up, it's pretty.
But it's you can't see it too well. Plus, it will probably never be integrated into an unrated edition of the movie, which is unfortunate.
Because like back then with movies, when they cut stuff, they're gone. They don't do anything.
At least we still have it, but pretty much, it will never be in the movie, and you won't be able to see it quite the same. James, have you seen this one?
Yeah. I don't really care for it too much, just because the psychic didn't make any sense at all, and I don't know why they put it in there.
Yeah, it was obviously a forced premise, just like, hey...
It's like they're trying to try a different concept.
Carrie versus Jason.
I mean, he looked cool. I think it probably had the best kills besides...
Yeah, it had some pretty good...
Even with being cut, it had some good kills.
Yeah.
If they had the cut stuff in there, it would probably have some of the best in the
series. But I probably like it more than... Because I just take it for what it is, but it is like... It's silly at this point.
It wasn't bad or anything, but it was okay.
It's silly at this point, but it's not...
It's watchable.
Yeah, I would say it's watchable.
I mean, I've seen some cringy horror movies, and it's not as cringy as some of
them. Yeah, actually, when people talk about Kane Hodder being like the best Jason. He is in probably some of the weaker Jason movies for some weird reason.
No, I don't believe that.
But overall, it's a decent movie. Okay, so next up would be Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, which just right off the back, it's a very misleading title. He's only in like Manhattan, like the final act of the movie.
Yeah.
But just to talk about for a moment, I think it came out in 1989, which was the last of the 80s.
Very 80s.
It is very 80s feel though, even though it's at the end.
Late 80s feel.
It does have like that feel to it. A lot of like even like a New Blood kind of did. But anyways, was Jason Takes Manhattan. He's like underwater where he ended before, but he like I think like some electrical line like gets him to come back to life for some random reason.
I guess electricity is like really important.
I guess he's like Frankenstein now. He gets back up.
Why is there an electrical line in Crystal?
He goes over to like the boat, a boat nearby, and he gets up and he just happens to, I think, find a hockey mask that happens to have the cut from the fourth one in it. Don't know why. Kills those people. Moves on to another boat, which is like a giant, like...
Not quite it's a small cruise ship.
Yeah, a small cruise liner. On Crystal Lake, for some reason.
Somehow Crystal Lake is connected to the ocean.
Yeah, so they go on that, and then like not only like did it somehow make it to Manhattan on that cruise liner, but there's also a shot where you just see it in water with like storms going on, so it makes you think they're in the ocean. So I don't know if this leads to, I don't know if that leads to Manhattan.
Where is Camp Crystal Lake located?
Oh.
It's nowhere near like the east.
I want to say New Jersey or something like that.
Yeah, there's no like lake that has an opening to the ocean.
Maybe he swam down a river.
It's possible. Who knows how?
We would like
he made it. He made it to Manhattan. Anyways, on that cruise liner, there's like the small cruise liner. There's a bunch of people who just like are graduating or something, and they're going on a trip to Manhattan. So Jason kills all of them on the boat for most of the runtime until some people get off in Manhattan, and Jason's like so dedicated to killing them that he ignores like everyone else in Manhattan. When he like even walks through Times Square at one point.
There's a point where like guys had a boombox. He walks by, and then he breaks the boombox, and then walks away. Which I love.
Breaks the boombox, and all the guys like, "Hey, what's up?" So he turns back, looks at him, lifts up his mask, put it down, and walks away.
Yeah.
So their tongue is in their cheek with these movies. I think it's funny, but anyways, he ended up getting defeated at the end by being in the sewers, and toxic waste is in Manhattan sewers.
Enough
obviously.
to like. Just eat you like
it's realistic.
I guess it is New York.
Who knows what's in New
York?
York?
A lot of toxic sludge coming out of that area.
There's a lot of things I have against this movie. Some for, but really most people's complaint is that it doesn't take place in Manhattan too much.
Jason takes a cruise liner.
It's Jason Takes a Cruise Liner. It's not that bad of a movie. If it wasn't called Jason Takes Manhattan, and he just happened to show up in Manhattan at the end, not as many people would complain. But it's still, like some of the things in Manhattan, like right when they get to Manhattan, they immediately get like mugged, and one of the girls almost gets raped and injected with some type of drug.
Okay, is it on the cruise ship? Like the one of the chaperone, like a principal or something. Mm-hmm. Didn't he like try to get with like?
I don't know. I think someone tried to
get with him. Yeah, and then he.
I don't know if he was for it, but I think he eventually became for it.
And then he died. But yeah, like they get to New York, you just get, when you get to New York, you're worried about like getting mugged and then injected with drugs.
Yeah. So overall, like it had big ambitions originally when the movie was going to get made, because he wanted to do stuff like on Statue of Liberty, the World Trade Center, like multiple stuff in like in the heart of Manhattan, and they like had 2 days to film in Manhattan. Everything else is in Vancouver. So about 2 days, around then.
That's
so really, they had to cut down the movie because the production company wasn't willing to put in the money to do what they wanted to do. Which sucks, but if they would have just not called it Jason Takes Manhattan, it wouldn't have been as complained about. Now, there are some kills. I don't know if there's like a lot of blood, but like one guy gets his head punched off in a boxing match with Jason.
Yeah, he like squares up with Jason and then...
Hilarious. One punch, too.
Yeah, doesn't he like lay a few punches on him?
Yeah, he like gets Jason, like, hits him a lot, gets tired, and Jason, one hit, head flies off, falls into a dumpster closes. So the movie's not taking itself seriously, and that's fine.
course of action.
And then the cruise liner, like I don't remember any of the characters really. It's kind of like, forgettable that wise.
Yeah,
but
I remember I liked the guy that did the boxing matches. I liked him. I don't remember too much about him.
Yeah, and I don't remember the main characters too much. No. I just know that actually I've fallen asleep during this movie.
I have too. I think I fell asleep watching
because just the whole like toxic waste at the end. I almost always forget about it because I'm just asleep.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tedious one. Have you ever seen this?
Yeah, I'd say the most notable part is honestly the toxic waste one, because I remember turning it on one time on TV and that was the part. But I've seen the full thing in its entirety. I mean, obviously it's deep into the whole comedic thing at this point. They're not taking it seriously at all. I mean, it's whatever. I wouldn't watch it again, but once is enough for me.
Like, it's a Jason movie. You seen Takes Me Ahead?
Yeah. I thought this one was, I actually really like this one.
What do you like?
I mean, I know a lot of people don't like it, but, because it doesn't really make sense.
I feel like with Friday the 13th,
most movies don't make sense.
People like different ones, and like, I know other people don't like this one.
How come you liked it, James?
Well, I don't know, it just kind of showed, like, this is the one where it really, like, showed how brute force and how strong Jason actually is with, him punching off the guy's head or running through the wall and, like, picking up that, like,
that's such a keen
guy in the diner and slamming him against the wall. I thought it was pretty sweet, so.
This is the one you brought up a lot, like, especially, like, the punch thing. You
Yeah,
used to talk about that one a lot.
I wish he got more involved with the people in New York, just because
that would have been
they're supposed to be, like, violent.
It feels like in a movie, like, in New York, it just had such a larger kill count in New York, it would be so much better.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that might have been what they were going for with the budget.
I think
it really is from the budget. So you can't fault the movie too much. It tried to be good. The production just didn't have the money to do what it wanted to do, which is unfortunate because I would like to see a movie where Jason literally takes Manhattan and just kills everyone.
Top of the World Trade.
Punch him off the World Trade Center. Have a really bad scene of him like somebody falling.
That would be fun. But it's a fun movie.
For me, I would say I could recognize it's not one of the best movies in the series, but I enjoy watching it just because I like laughing and making fun of it. I mean, it's got some good kills. I enjoy, like, the whole, like, ridiculousness of going to New York. Like, you could tell that's the point where they're kind of, like, jumping the shark. Like, almost literally, they could have been a shark.
Well, okay, maybe Jason versus Carrie might have been jumping.
Yeah.
Then they jump it again.
And then they
jump the shark a lot in this series. You'll see.
And then, but overall, I enjoy it. I've watched it a few times. I have fell asleep during it, so there's parts in it that are good. I think a lot of the characters are forgettable. I think like the toxic sludge is the most memorable, and the boxing is probably my second most memorable.
Now, I'll just say like one more quick thing is that I didn't like is they have like flashbacks and like hallucinations where they see like a young boy Jason and he's not deformed for some weird reason.
They are terrible with continuity.
So I don't know why he's not deformed. Like he didn't need to look the same, but he has no deformity.
Did when he was growing up, did he just kind of like look normal, and then his mom like just banged his head against something, and then it was just like, oh, hey you guys.
Still a decent movie for the franchise with a weird.
Yeah, you have to like. There's like good, bad, and then you just gotta kind of use your own thing for Friday the 13th.
So next one is the 9th one. It's called Jason Goes to Hell: The Final Friday. Now I think at this point in time, I think in 1993, so the original company like sold their the Jason like franchise to a different one. They didn't want to end it quite right, but I'll just say that this is kind of like they wanted to set up a Nightmare on Elm Street crossover that eventually did happen, but much later, over 10 years. Anyways, with Jason Goes to Hell, it begins with kind of no continuity. I don't know how he got back from Manhattan to Crystal Lake.
Yeah, how did he's like all dissolved, and then it's like, ignore that one, he's back.
But one thing, Jason looks really cool in this.
Yeah.
His mask is deteriorated and is like into his skin now.
He was one of the cooler Jasons. Once he became undead, that's like
and it's Kane Hodder again. Anyways, it begins with him chasing a girl who's like half naked in a cabin. Then it finds out that she's really in the FBI and leads Jason outside and all the FBI there and they just blow him up.
Like straight up.
Completely destroyed.
I didn't see that at all when I first watched it.
It was weird. But it was a really cool opening that don't really know where to go with it. Where they went was it was kind of weird because his like parts are being like inspected at the morgue or something.
Yeah, it's back at the morgue.
And this like mortician is like gets like obsessed with the heart and eats his heart. And that like transferred the Jason essence into him. So Jason is body hopping to people.
Yeah.
Because you can transfer it again by like going up to someone and like the worm coming out of the mouth and going into them, and then they become Jason.
It was very. That's not the most uncomfortable
Yeah.
part, but it's like there's a part where like he wants to transfer and he's like shaving the guy's face,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just goes full homo and like
Yeah.
totally like makes out with him.
Jason's a worm.
Yeah.
Jason's a worm. Didn't see that one coming.
For most of this movie, Jason's. A worm.
So basically Jason's not in it too much. He
Jason
body hops to people until the end. And in this one, it's what you said before, that guy from Friday 13th,
Yeah.
the TV show, is John D. LeMay. He was in 2 seasons of the TV show, then then exited for the 3rd season. And I don't know if it was, then like a couple years later he was in this part 9. And he's the main character. I just remember him because of the TV show. I don't know if it was like, he was
I don't
particularly
think
memorable.
he was too memorable.
But most of these people aren't. They have to like track down like Jason's niece or something, because Jason needs his niece to be reborn, so the worm needs to go in her for him to become
I almost
Jason.
got a Halloween vibe from that, like the whole like bloodline being important.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, there's like stuff going on, like they don't really explain, and then the next one's like, oh, there's like this niece or something, and I never really.
It was a weird one. We'll talk about the ending at the end of this, but basically he gets reborn as Jason, and have you guys seen? You don't really remember much of this one, do you?
Not at all. I just remember the FBI's.
Mm-hmm. James, you remember this one, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I loved it and I hated it for obvious reasons. I mean, it was like the most action-packed, and it had, in my opinion, it had the coolest, most brutal kills that they got to fit in there, and I thought the concept was interesting, but with Jason it doesn't work. They should have saved it for some other movie villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was like totally standalone without Jason,
Yeah,
it would have been interesting. But Jason has a worm.
People go to these movies. To see
There's
Jason.
actually the worm right there.
They don't go to these movies to like see a Jason worm go in people's mouth, go up girls' hoo-has. And,
That happens.
Yeah.
That's how Jason gets reborn.
like,
He goes up his knees.
yeah, his niece is kind of like on the ground.
Unneeded.
His niece is like on the ground with her legs like this, like unconscious or something, and then the worm just shoots under her dress.
It wouldn't even have been that bad if it was anybody else, but it had to be like his niece.
Yeah, that somehow makes it worse. It's a weird concept made
made
worse.
He just decided to.
This movie was uncomfortable for me in a lot of aspects.
I would say overall this might be my least favorite.
Yeah, I think it was for me.
Like I can see what James says was like the brutality, because it is definitely one of the most.
How Jason looks when he's actually on screen and the violence was some of the best in the series. But then the concept, you see like Jason goes to hell, and you're like picturing Jason going all Doom guy, like going through hell, just like punching demons and stuff.
Which would be cool.
Which I would pay to see that. But then it's just like, oh, Jason's a worm. It was kind of a letdown. If it was a standalone movie, I think it would be a lot better. If it wasn't like a Jason, if it was like something else. But I think the whole thing, they missed an opportunity. I mean, they probably didn't have the biggest budget, so I get why. But there was a good opportunity there.
And this was not the final Friday, even though they wanted it to be the final Friday. So that's the second time they said it was the final one.
Hey, with the
fucked up on it. I realized I had to make
it. We need a good one.
Yeah, with this, is it more violent though in the unrated or art like?
There's like a 3 or 4 minute difference. I've never actually seen the R-rated version. I've only seen the R-rated version.
So that might be where.
But I've heard that it is brutal, and
okay.
it's in the 90s, so they were first MPAA was much more relaxed on horror movies in the 90s.
Yeah.
So able to get away with, like they weren't like destroying like with a new.
I mean, if you look at movies now, even
Yeah,
if if
now.
they say you can't put something in there, we're like, okay, we'll put it in during the unrated
But
edition.
now they kept the footage for the unrated, so they were able to get away with it. But it's just Jason looks good in it. So
Jason and the kills are the best.
I'm just gonna talk about the ending, which to me is the best part.
My favorite.
Jason's defeated, and like Hansz like bring him down into hell, and it ends with like everyone, hey, we defeated Jason. Then his mask is just laying in a pound of dirt. Then all of a sudden, a glove with knives on the end of it comes up and drags the mask down into hell. And this was after Freddy had already been defeated in Freddy's Dead to Final Nightmare, I'm pretty sure. So it's setting up Freddy Krueger was the knives the knives on the glove that's obviously Freddy Krueger, and it's setting up Freddy vs. Jason. Now, Freddy vs. Jason came out in 2005. This came out in 1993.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make a movie right then and there, which they ended up not. So, obviously that movie's in development hell. We'll talk about that one later. But I thought that was like the best way to end it.
Yeah, I remember we watched it, and we just got done with a kind of disappointing movie because it was like we were expecting more, but then that happened, and then we're like, oh, this is awesome. But I mean, we were watching it knowing that there was one after. I could see people at the time, you have years go by, and just like, this isn't gonna happen. That's kind of now. This is just every time I watch this movie, that's a punch in my face. But
they were trying, but it took a while.
Yeah.
But did you like that ending?
Yeah, I did. Like, a lot of times I forget about it. Like, I know it was like a really bad movie, but it also brought Freddy and Jason.
Yeah.
If you look at the comic books, I think it was, I never read them, but it also has a Necronomicon, and then that involves Ash.
I think the movie actually, in Jason Goes to Hell, in the background of the house for some reason, there's a Necronomicon.
And I think...
Yeah, and then Ash is in the comics.
Yeah.
Jason, Freddy vs. Jason versus Ash.
That's what it was. Oh, okay.
That was a weird character to bring in, Ash, but I would have loved to see a movie with that. If they got a second one out with Ash, I would have been happy.
It was definitely a good ending to a movie I wasn't a big fan of. Okay, so next up we have Jason X, also Jason in Space. This came out in 2001, and basically they were trying to make Freddy vs. Jason, but it was just taking so long they decided just to make another Jason movie, but set it so far into the future that like anything they can come out with anything in between. So it begins with them like they have Jason and they have like in some government research facility in Camp Crystal Lake for some reason, and they're gonna freeze him because they can't kill him for some reason. So when they
didn't they
Jason,
feel like they tried to kill him?
Yeah, they tried to kill him, but it doesn't work. So Jason gets out and starts killing people, but he still ends up getting frozen, and they just like leave him there. And then 400 or so years go by, and people from the future show up on a spaceship and they're like salvaging the area.
Yeah, like Earth is like a wasteland or something.
And there's like a new Earth now, Earth 2, I think they call it. So creative. So they go and happen to find Jason. They're like, oh, this guy is frozen, along with some other girl from like our century. And so they take him aboard the spaceship to see if they're alive. Now, then they find out that, oh, this is the serial killer Jason Voorhees. So one of the guys, like I think the guy who's sponsoring it, is like, oh, we can bring him back and I can make a lot of money off it. Not quite sure why, they probably explain it, but they can make money off having a serial killer from 400 years ago.
How do you make money off that?
But Jason wakes up and kills people.
What a shock.
And he basically, well, one, I'll just say the best kill that one of the best kills in the Jason movies is right when he gets up. He goes over to this one girl, takes her head, shoves it into like the...
It's like dry ice.
Dry ice.
Liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, liquid nitrogen.
Yeah. And you can see it freeze. He takes it out and just bashes it into the ground, and just frozen pieces of flesh go everywhere. That's a cool kill. Anyways, starts killing people, and this is like a bunch of teenagers, I think. It's not like a school field trip, but it's basically teenagers in space, so everyone's having sex. And he kills a lot of people. Basically, eventually they get the upper hand, and they think they kill Jason. Like I think part of his head gets blown off, but he falls onto the thing of nanotechnology, and it creates Uber Jason, which is a weird cyborg.
Jason before, like I kind of liked how he looked before he was like Uber Jason, but like they didn't even really do anything with his eyes, so he just had straight up like normal human eyes.
Regular Jason before he's Uber is just Kane Hodder with the hockey mask.
They didn't want to put too much effort into it.
Which is much different than like even Jason Goes to Hell, which was like messed up face. But then Uber Jason looks, I think he looks cool. Like you gotta accept that he's cyborg Jason and just roll with it, because this one is also does not take itself seriously, hence why it's in space. And basically he just fights with people, and it ends with him being sucked out into space, and then some guy pushes him into Earth's 2 atmosphere, and he burns up on his way down.
Guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a heroic black guy.
In sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
So this one definitely has like more of a sci-fi tinge to it, but it's a slasher movie in space basically. I don't know like what else you can really say about
it. It was very
tongue in
cheek, just like the other ones. It was like we know we're jumping the shark by going into space because that's like this thing. You go into space, you're jumping the shark. But they embraced it, and I thought it went well.
Like for example, in Hellraiser 4, they went into space, and their tongue was not in their cheek on that one. This one, they're like, yeah, we're in space. We don't care. We're on number 10. Does anybody care?
No.
No one cares.
Everyone likes Uber Jason. Okay.
What did you think, James?
I liked it. Originally I didn't, because I didn't really like the whole futuristic thing, but then it kind of dawned on me. And I think this one, I think Jason had like the most on-screen time, because it's mainly focused on him.
Yeah,
not so much on
I agree with that. I think it will. He was a...
Especially makes up for the last movie where he almost has no on-screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about Jason X, but it is a very interesting one. I don't know. There are some weird parts in it. What was that one where it is like a teacher and one of them's a professor.
Yeah.
And in order to like get a good grade in their class, she starts like twisting his nipples.
Oh, that was weird.
And she passes, so you know that's something.
Remember that? So twist your professor's nipples to get good grades.
That's how it works.
But
you pass.
Wasn't there? Oh yeah, that was a good movie. But like, wasn't there a guy that made like a female robot?
Yeah.
And like, he was like really into it too. Like, of course he made her like big boobs and you know. But she was an interesting character.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts, I don't know if it was like a virtual reality thing or something, when they're trying to stall Jason, they put him like in a virtual reality, like the holodeck or whatever from Star Trek, basically. And he's just like looking around, he's at Camp Crystal Lake, and there's just like two girls like, we're gonna have sex and like do drugs. And then they just whip off their shirts, and Jason's just staring at him. And then it goes back to them and to the people trying to get away, and then it goes back to Jason. He has them like in sleeping bags, and he's just going boom, boom, boom. And that was probably one of my favorite parts.
And since it's like in the 2000s, now you can get away with a lot more gory stuff, and no one doesn't care.
Because he's bashing these girls against. And
but it was definitely a good homage, because this movie knows what it is, it embraces it, it doesn't care, and they send Jason into space.
I thought it was one of the better...
You either like it or you don't.
Out
of
the slasher movies that went into space is one of the better ones.
You can't say that it's a good movie, but it's definitely a fun movie.
It's a fun movie, yeah.
Which is kind of what you got to aim for with Friday the 13th.
Don't try to get a good movie, because then you get a bad movie.
I really like the scene. For some reason, there's a scene where, I'm not sure if it was the professor or who it was, but there was a scene where it was just him and Jason. He was actually talking to Jason, and Jason was actually listening to what he was saying.
Oh,
I mean, it didn't
and then, and he was the only one in there, and then he yelled at everyone like, "It's all right, he just wanted his machete!" And then he killed him. It's a fun movie.
Oh, yeah.
So, next up, we finally get Freddy vs. Jason, which came out in 2003, a full, 10 years after they teased it was Jason Goes to Hell. This one, obviously, is Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street with Jason. And it was... I think this come before Alien vs. Predator or after?
Before. I think it was before.
Okay. Not positive, but I think it's before. And this is a big crossover, because this is people wanted them to cross over in the 80s, so now you get it in the 2000s.
Yeah, just licensing companies didn't it was hard for them.
But finally, when New Line got all the rights, it just took them forever. This was in development hell for a long time. Many different scripts. I've actually read some overviews of all the different scripts, and what they put on screen is the best idea they had.
Yeah, there's some really bad ones.
We won't go into some of the bad ones they had, but actually, no, I'll just go into one real quick. There's one where they're going to have Freddy be the one that not only molested Jason when he was a kid at camp, but drowned him. That was an actual idea they were toying with.
That would be the worst.
Yes. So, at least they didn't do that. Then they moved on to this idea, which was Freddy. No one is scared of Freddy anymore, so he can't show up in their dreams in Springwood. Yeah, so
they got everyone to forget about him.
No one remembers Freddy.
And the two guys that remember him, they have him drugged up and
If you remember Freddy, they put you into a mental institution, and so you can't dream. which is interesting because the mental institution is the same one from the third Nightmare on Elm Street, which we'll talk about in a future episode. And they take the same drug from that movie. Anyways, in order to get people to remember Freddy, he gets Jason, who's currently in hell. He brings him back to the real world in order to start killing people, so people start getting scared and thinking about Freddy again, and then Freddy can invade their dreams. But Jason just starts killing people, and he keeps doing it, and he doesn't follow what Freddy says. So basically, it eventually comes down to Freddy wanting to kill Jason and get rid of him because he started messing up.
I mean, it's a good concept. I mean, it probably could have been executed a little better.
Like, I don't know, like, what else they could have came up with.
When, like, Jason, like, does the thing where he just gets in bed with a guy in it and folds it up and the guy's just like this, I thought that was pretty cool.
I think that's after he, like, stabbed him a few times in bed and...
Yeah,
that's a pretty good film.
Flaming Jason through the cornfield.
Yes. There's a time, there was a cornfield rave, because, you know...
Those happen.
Cornfield raves. I've been to so many. They light Jason on fire, and he's just walking through the cornfield with just like a trail of fire.
It's burning, man.
He just goes around and just, at the rave, just kills people, which is something you don't normally see with Friday the 13th. Normally, like, him stalking someone and killing them. Next victim, next victim.
This is just
this one's just going around slicing people up and killing them, which is definitely something I like to see. Also, weirdly, Freddy only kills about one person.
Yeah.
Now, we'll talk about the Freddy aspect of the movie when we get to the Nightmare on Elm Street review, but right now we'll just focus on Jason's part of it, which I think is, like, Jason's not played by Kane Hodder again. They wanted someone who's much taller in order to, like, have a contrast between him and Freddy, which I can see why, but fans would have preferred Kane Hodder to come back. Now, this Jason, for some reason, has really, like, oily black skin. Like, it's not like he is black, but, like, his skin is just, like, oily for some reason. I don't know exactly, but it's a little odd, but at the same time, it still looks cool, so I don't have a problem with it.
I don't know, Pamela Voorhees might have been into, like, black men.
We don't know what Jason's father is like. I don't know, what did you guys think of Freddy vs. Jason?
I was content with it. I mean, like, people could, like, analyze it and be like, oh, well, there's this wrong with it. I was fine with it.
Like, there was stuff wrong with it.
Yeah, there was.
There's stuff wrong with, like, every movie if you analyze it. But, like, especially these, you could analyze it. But, like, there was problems. Overall, it's one of my favorites just because it even if it's not, like, the best way they could have did it, it still united them in, like, a really cool way.
Now, I would say in particular, there is pretty bad acting from people.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like, I feel like in the other sequels there probably was, but in this one I really noticed it. And obviously, I don't care if there's bad acting. Yeah, there's someone who's basically just Jay from Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
Freebird or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's an interesting character. Memorable enough.
He's actually one of the more memorable.
But if you've seen any of the Jay and Silent Bob movies, he's just like that, and even dressed similar.
Yeah. That's what they did that on purpose.
It was very... I enjoyed Freddy vs. Jason. Jason killed a lot of people in it. I think it's much more...
It's more of a Jason movie.
Now, there's two fights between him and Freddy. One takes place in the dream world, and Freddy kind of has the upper hand in
the dream world.
Jason's
like afraid of water. I mean, I could see why people would be like, but he was like in water, like why is... But it's his dream,
it's
so
like subconscious
so
something like that.
That's kind of how I
eventually, much like in the Nightmare movies, if you hold on to Freddy and whiz him when you wake up, he comes into the real world. That's how they bring Freddy into the real world to face Jason. And then there's like, I really like the fight scene, but it's like Freddy knows like MMA kind of stuff now. I don't know where that came from. What did you think, James?
Not much.
No.
I mean,
Freddy knows MMA now. And just
I don't know. I thought like there's like a lot of like there's like a huge climax. Well, no, not really. There's just somewhat of a climax to the end.
Not even a huge climax, just a climax.
To the fight scene, and they had their chance to make it. In my opinion, they had their chance to make it a good fight scene, and they just kind of fucked it up.
It's like really weird. Like it ends with at Crystal Lake, so the movie's mainly in Springwood, which is Nightmare on Elm Street, and then it ends at Crystal Lake, which was good.
Ending, or?
We'll talk about the ending last. Okay. But Okay, we'll talk about it now. Basically, and right over camp, like the Crystal Lake, they're fighting on a pier, and it ends with like, I think Freddy's arm gets ripped off by Jason, but Freddy had the machete and was about to kill like the main people. But then Jason comes out of the water and stabs him with the arm, and I think even Freddy then stabs him with the machete, and then they just both topple into the water. Now, it's another spoiler. It ends with Jason walking out of the water, holding Freddy's severed head, and Freddy winks at the camera.
I thought that was the best way they could have ended it, because is he in the real world, is it the dream world? And I think that's how they needed to, because you have Freddy win, Jason fans are going to be mad. You have Jason win, Freddy fans are going to be mad.
Who do you guys think won?
I think, I mean, it almost goes to who you think is the better character.
What do you think?
See, I'm probably different. I like Jason better, but it's iffy if I like him better.
Who do you think won?
I think Freddy won.
Freddy?
In my opinion, I think Jason did defeat Freddy, but then somehow Freddy came back and pulled him into the dream world, and that's what happened at the end.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to look at it.
But
they both lose.
I think it was Shane or maybe Sean told me. But what was the original ending where?
They had a few endings, but one ending was they would go down into hell, and they're like about to like run at each other and fight, and then Pinhead shows up from Hellraiser and says, "What seems to be the problem?"
Well, yeah, they're about to fight, and all the chains come out of the wall and grab them, and he's just standing there like, "What seems to be the problem, boys?"
And
that would have been my
the
favorite.
best ending I've ever seen. That would have been so cool.
They kind of wanted to do it, but
it come down to Hellraiser's rights. They did not have the rights to it.
So I think like the ending where he's walking out of the water was just kind of like a last second thing that they had to do. Really
I would love to see that Pinhead one, because Freddy vs. Jason vs.
Pinhead is probably one of my favorite villains. It was last year.
So that would have been cool.
Movies.
But it didn't happen, and we got that one with him walking out, which I think it's not like the best one, but it's where if you're a Jason fan, Jason won. Freddy fan, Freddy won. I like to think that Freddy won because they're in the dream world.
If you overanalyze it, anybody wins. They all lose.
But one thing to keep in mind is that Jason had the movie that takes place after this.
So Jason won.
So Jason, whatever happens, he gets out of the dream world and is in the real world.
Or like continuity-wise, they just don't care.
Or they just don't care, which is actually the right answer.
That's the right
answer.
But
if you really want to overanalyze this, which we're not, who do you think won, Freddy or Jason?
I'd probably agree. Probably Freddy, because he's still alive. I mean, I'm a bigger Jason fan.
Yeah,
I'd say Freddy won.
I used to be a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan, and I actually didn't like Friday the 13th so much. That's slowly changed, and I like Jason more
Freddy
at this
Krueger's
point.
good, but like I like the whole like just big guy killing people.
Yeah, the silent killer. It is. I like Freddy vs. Jason. There is a lot of things that are done with it, but
overall,
it's a fun movie.
It's
which is what it needed to be. It couldn't be anything more.
It's like most of them. They're fun. They're not good. They're fun.
But like it's enjoyable, which is what they need to be. So the very last movie that came out, the 12th film, it's called Friday the 13th. Just that. It was a reboot that was in 2009, and it took elements from like the entire series. I mainly kind of felt like it was like the first four, like the first arc.
You could see
parts
of like
there's parts
like from in the first few. You could see like different aspects taken from all of them. Like the guy looking for his sister.
Yeah,
like that
from part 4.
Yeah, so like
he starts with a bag on his head from part 2, and then gets a mask and stray. Just a sleeping bag, not quite the same type of sleeping bag kill, but that was from like A New Blood or something like that. It was. So there's a lot of stuff in it. Now this came out in 2009, and it's part of that like new like wave in the 2000s was like remaking horror films is like Halloween.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think, is the biggest influence on this one.
That's been like those have been
similar.
more successful though than this.
Yeah.
Like,
this one made a good amount of money too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, with it, it begins with a bunch of people in the woods hiking, and they go off into different ways. I think they find like Jason's old house or something like that. They all just start dying very fast, and then you find out that this is just the intro, and those aren't the people who.
That was one of my favorite things because I remember we were watching it, and like somebody's about to die. I'm like, oh, this is just the intro, joking because I'm like, we're a good amount in, And then it's like Friday the 13th. I'm like, that is funny. Like, it was really quick and really brutal. I liked it.
It definitely very good. I liked the opening. So then you find out that actually one of the girls from the opening that ends up surviving, you find out that her brother is looking for her all these like months or weeks later, and no one in town can find any of the people who disappeared. So the brother like looking for his sister who's still alive, that Jason kept alive and is keeping like in this underground.
What I thought
cave
that was
system.
weird.
A little weird. Also, Jason taking prisoners is a little odd, but it's because she looks like his mother.
Yeah, I get it, but it just wasn't like...
Oh, also, the movie starts with a recap of the first movie, basically, because it shows some girl decapitating Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, then it went to, like, that other one.
So that's you were justified in thinking that this wasn't like an intro.
Yeah, because they already had a mini intro. So anyways, they go with the reboot. Hey, a bunch of people go to some house to party that's near Crystal Lake. Bunch of teenagers. And basically it's about the guy looking for a sister interacting with them while Jason just starts killing people who happen to be around Crystal Lake. Now this time he's much more, I want to say the word survivalist, because he uses a bow and arrow.
Yeah, he seemed more like...
He just seems, he's smarter, I would say.
This one confused me because, like, he was obviously a human, but then, like, there's some parts that, like, at the end, I felt like, okay, maybe he's not quite, or there's something.
But
Sam Hain.
There is, like, a lot of interesting... He uses a machete quite a bit in this one.
Yeah, he can.
And a lot of nudity. Like, I know most Friday the 13th do, but this one has a lot.
You know, like, there's the guy that's looking for a sister. He kind of strikes up a friendship kind of thing with this girl that's there with her boyfriend. And the boyfriend doesn't like him, but the boyfriend like straight up cheats on her with like another one.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you really want him to die.
Yeah.
Like, then there's like the really dumb...
dumb guy.
Yeah, he gets like an arrow in the head, I'm pretty sure. Then,
while driving a boat.
Yeah, his girlfriend gets hit by the boat as it's coming. Then she's like underneath the dock, and she's like, oh, Jason walks, and it's like, oh, I'm safe. And then the machete comes through the top, and it pulls up. She comes out, and you see her chest, and it just falls down. It was very post-Scream.
Yeah.
And how it did stuff. It was post-Scream in the 2000s, not post-Scream in the 90s. There's a legitimate difference in style, but this felt like a modern movie, and it was weird seeing a modern aspect of the movie.
It felt like part of the new remake craze. Very slick.
It was really nice too.
What goes.
I thought it was a pretty good movie.
I enjoyed it.
What was that thing that it was like some organization or whatever that kept them from showing a certain amount of gore in each movie?
MPAA.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have that to worry about, so they could really just put one.
Now, I recently bought like the unrated version, the killer cut. I haven't seen that yet. I don't know how much more footage it would add, but it's a gory movie to begin with, and they get away with quite a bit nowadays. Really fun movie. Basically, they defeat Jason, I think, by... I think he gets like choked by a chain and sucked kind of into a wood chipper of sorts. No, not all the way, but he basically dies. And they throw him into the water.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Why don't you like get the police there? 'Cause, like.
And then there's a final thing representative of the first movie with Jason coming back out of the water and trying to grab him into there.
He's really like messed up looking, so they kept that.
And the guy who plays Jason this time around is Derek Mears, who does a lot of horror movie stunt work, and I think he's very.
I like him. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Like I've seen him.
And he's big, and he's really interesting.
I liked in this movie how like like we said, there's a lot of different stuff that was just kind of like the first. All of them kind of coming together. Like he gets his mask in this one. He starts out with a bag.
Yeah.
And he
bag can't chase
and then like there's like the redneck guy that's got like a bunch of weed that he found that I'm positive that's Jason's weed because Jason kills people that's around that weed.
Jason grows weed.
I'm pretty sure Jason's smoking some ganja. Yeah, he's got some ganja. But like the guy gets some of that and then he goes upstairs and starts like sexually assaulting like he's Harvey Weinstein like this like mannequin. And he's like getting really like inappropriate with it, like, and then like Jason kills him, and then there's like the mask there, and Jason picks up the mask. But yeah, I like
how he just casually finds a mask. It's not like some big thing like, oh, my bag just broke. There's the mask. I'm wearing that mask now. He just randomly put on a mask in the third one.
The thing is,
there's no need to
in a reboot, you needed to put his mask on at the very beginning because like that's what people think of now with Jason.
But I get what they did.
I'm glad he didn't start.
One other thing that I just personally liked about this movie, which I don't know what other people would think, but there's a character that the brother who's looking for his sister. The character that he befriends, the main, I would say the survivor girl, if you're watching a movie. And the whole time you think she's the survivor girl.
Yeah.
Then they find the brother's sister, all three of them are trying to get away, and the survivor girl dies. I didn't see that one.
I didn't either.
And she was a good survivor girl too. What's
I forget her name.
Danielle Panovich.
Yeah.
Who's in a lot of horror movies.
She's pretty good.
So that was I didn't see that coming, which in slasher movies is very rare. Normally you see stuff coming. I don't know, James. Do you have anything to add to this one?
No, really. I mean,
it's a good movie.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I thought it was
they did a good
solid
job for a remake.
I kind of. I know it didn't do great.
It did very well.
It did better than Nightmare on Elm Street.
The second highest grossing movie behind Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah,
because when you combine things, you always make a lot of money.
When that come out? 2000.
2000 wait, which one? Reboot?
Yeah, reboot.
2009.
That's what I thought. And now we're in 2017. There's not been a movie in between that, and I find that funny because this was actually a pretty good movie.
So we'll, since we're on the topic of it, we'll just go straight into. There was supposed to be a Friday the 13th that came out this year in 2017. Now they've been teasing it for a while. I wasn't sure if it was going to be another reboot, a remake, maybe a sequel to the original series, sequel to the reboot. I wanted it to be a sequel to the reboot. I think it was under the working title Friday the 13th Part 13 because it's the 13th.
This is a big deal because it's the 13th.
There was rumors it was going to take place during winter, which would have been an interesting thing to do. And it was all totally good to go. It had scripts, and I read one of the scripts. I mean, I read an overview of one of the scripts, and it was very good. And I liked where they would have went with it. Basically, the movie Rings came out, the third Ring movie, and it bombed at the box office.
In its defense, I actually liked it.
Rings was good.
Yeah.
Better than Ring 2.
Yeah.
Anyways, when the company decided, hey, people who go see Rings or go see Friday the 13th,
they're all
not making money.
movies.
But it's not.
Didn't they already have a
Canceled.
shot and stuff?
What? Friday the 13th hasn't.
No, they didn't even get a shot.
Production hadn't begun yet, but it was going to come out this year.
I think it would have.
Now, that is just one of the reasons that people say is I've read reviews of saying that's not the reason. They deny it sometimes. Maybe that's not the actual reason. So don't.
I think it's a contributing reason.
But I think it at least has part to do with it.
I mean, especially I think it would have did good because it's Friday the 13th and that makes money. It's Part 13. People go see that. The game, which we'll talk about later, came out and that got a pretty warm reception. So
it's unfortunate that there wasn't a new one, but I would have liked. I pretty much, even if it's a bad sequel, I want sequels to horror movies, so I would have accepted it. And it's unfortunate that it didn't get made.
I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us would have wanted to see it.
Maybe down the road there will be another one.
There will be. But
as of right now, there's 12 movies out, and hopefully a 13th one is coming soon.
Hopefully.
Okay, so now that we've gone through all of the movies, all 12 of them, there's also a TV show in 1987 to 1990 that was Friday the 13th, the series. Now, that actually had zero to do with Friday the 13th.
I don't know why they call it Friday the 13th.
Frank Mancuso Jr., who is a producer of and helped make the Friday the 13th one, also made the show. Oh. So they were like, it was originally going to be called the 13th Hour, but if we call it Friday the 13th, we might be able to market it better. Which, I think it was called the 13th Hour in Britain, but it was known as Friday the 13th, the series here. And basically it was just known to continue the trend of cursed objects, bad luck. I don't know exactly. There's not really anything to the movie.
Yeah. From what I've seen, there's nothing. It's just.
But it was a good show.
It was not being you might be disappointed in no Jason, but besides that, I haven't watched all of it. I've watched 2 seasons or whatever, and I thought it was a pretty solid show from what I've seen. I like the characters. It's not I've seen some really low budget shows from that time period that were bad. Mm-hmm. This was good, and this was very influential. Mm-hmm.
This one, the basic premise of it is that there's this Uncle Lewis who runs this one cursed artifact store. So basically, he made a pact with the devil. So when the items that they sell are cursed, and they have like the curses are like vary between object very widely. But when they with the curses, he eventually decides, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. So the devil kills him. So his niece and nephew inherit it. Now the niece and nephew are just related through marriage.
Yeah.
The niece is Mickey, and the nephew is Ryan. And they start to like, oh, well, we're going to sell off all this junk and just sell the place and move on. So eventually another guy shows up named Jack Marshak, who's like the uncle's age. Now Jack says that all of these are cursed. He's the one who helped like find some of these items for Uncle Lewis. He's not the one who cursed them. So he says like you need to get all these items back because they're all like terrible and bad things happen with them.
That's the show.
So that's pretty much the premise of the show. Each episode is them tracking down another artifact. It lasted for 3 seasons, 72 episodes in total.
That's pretty good.
Now, the first 2 seasons, Mickey and Ryan are the niece and nephew. Ryan is written off the show at the beginning of the 3rd season, and you're introduced to a guy who, at the end of the 2nd, called Johnny, who is also like is a good character. You don't get to see him too much because
Johnny, man.
the third season was cut short because they were right when they were filming like the last episode of that season. They found out, oh, by the way, you're not making any more episodes, and it's not going to be another season. So luckily, it's not a cliffhanger. There's no like definitive end, which is bad. But I hate when shows don't have cliffhangers and are unresolved. So basically, it is in a way it's kind of a good way to end it just naturally because it's like, oh, they're still going to be collecting artifacts for who knows for how long.
Yeah.
So it was to me, in my opinion, it was a very good show. As we said before, the guy who played Ryan, John DeLume, he appeared in Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Friday, as the main character. And then I also know that the guy who played Jack Marshak actually passed away this year in 2017 from Alzheimer's disease. But I enjoyed the whole show, and I really liked his character. Yeah. Just a weird thing, we watched he did a lot of voice work. He did for those old Star Wars TV shows, the Star Wars Droid and Star Wars Ewoks.
Manjupa.
Yeah, he did the voice of Manjupa in that. I don't know why I remember that, but I just remember him very well. It's sad to see him go. Basically, this is also a very influential show. There was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, and the X-Files are all heavily influenced by it because there's a lot of episodes they have that are similar to this show. Then there was another show I haven't seen called The 13th Warehouse 13 for the Sci-Fi Channel that apparently was just like a blatant copy. Never seen it, not sure how, don't know much about it. So I just have a list of my 3 favorite episodes from all 3 seasons. Now one thing I noticed is that Season 1 I remembered episodes very well. Season 2, in hindsight, I didn't really care for it. Season 3, there's some good ones in there. So if you guys have any questions about these, I'll just say them. The first one would be the pilot episode. It was like a cursed doll they were going after.
Yeah, they sold it to like a little girl.
And it was just a very good like start to the series.
I just remember the little girl was like a little brat. And I wanted the little girl to die brutally because she pissed me off.
No, I didn't want kids to die, but I can see where he's coming from. The doll was very creepy. Then my favorite episode was also near like in the first 10. It was about a killer scarecrow, and it was a straight up slasher film in that. Like it was just a guy. It was like a scarecrow that came to life with a size, killing people.
That was a really good one.
So
I remember that.
And this is a violent show. Like they really pushed the envelope on violence, especially for the late '80s and '90s on television. Some sensuality also was much more than ratings board would have wanted back then. But it was very violent for the time. There's also another one where they went back in time to the 19th century, I believe, to fight like a vampire, and it like tied into like Bram Stoker's Dracula in a way. I really like the time travel ones; they're interesting. Now in season 2, there's this one item that actually appears throughout the series and comes back, but I kill a coin. So if the coin touches your head, it kills you, and then you touch it against someone else's head, and it brings him back to life. And in that episode, they actually kill off Mickey. Now it wasn't going to be a permanent thing; they bring her back by the end of the episode, but it was a very good. It was a very powerful episode, I would say. Now here's another one I just remember really well because it was really crazy and weird. called The Playhouse, where they go inside this kid's playhouse and like the weirdest things
That
happen.
was a good one.
It wasn't. I'm not saying it's based on Alice in Wonderland, but it had that feel of just weirdness, which at the same time being creepy. And then there's another one called Scarlet Cinema, about like a film student who was like obsessed with his camera, and it's like really into like werewolves for some reason, and like the whole opening is a clip from the Wolfman, like from the 40s. So I'm not sure why, but I really liked that. I thought it was interesting, just a kid watching the Wolfman in theaters, and then obviously I think he becomes a werewolf, but it was memorable. Now, in the third season I watched very recently to get ready for this review, and I enjoyed it a lot. The first 2 episodes are 2-parters where they write off Ryan from the show, which is done, I think, very well. And it's just about them going to somewhere in Europe, and he gets he gets in trouble. They think he's the one killing a bunch of these religious people, but he's not. And I think that's done really well. Now, my favorite in the third season is one called The Demon Hunter, which actually has nothing to do with a cursed object.
Well, that's weird.
It was it's about underneath the Curious Goods, which is the name of their artifact shop. There's like a demon ritual place that the uncle probably had from long ago. Well, anyways, these people who are demon hunters who just go around and are chasing like a actual demon around trying to kill it because a bunch of like Satanists brought it back. And I find that one very interesting because it was a different formula, and something just, the demon looked cool. You didn't see it a lot, but it still looked cool when you did see it. And then finally, this last one I liked called The Long Road Home, which was just Johnny and Mickey at the end. And they're like, they had to drive very far to get an artifact, and they go back. And it takes a very Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel. There's like a stuffed family in the attic, and creepy brothers, and the artifact comes into play. But I think it's also done kind of in a slasher kind of way, which the episodes that focus on the slasher aspects were my favorite. And overall, I would say it's just a very good show, and I definitely recommend it over like the Nightmare on Elm Street show. That one,
that was correct.
We'll talk about that later in a different episode, but it is not good. Friday the 13th, on the other hand, even though it has nothing to do with Jason, it is a very good show that I recommend. Yeah. You can find it for like around $40.
There was a episode that involved monks, I remember, and I really liked that one.
I think that was the second episode.
Yeah, I think that was.
I forget what it was about
exactly. There was like a multiple memorable episode.
Yeah, it was a good show, and it's only 72 episodes, which only, but you can go through it fast, and it's a very good show. So I definitely recommend it if you guys ever get a chance to see it. Okay, so basically those are all like the films and TV shows, and this will be the end of the review. But we just wanted to add like a few of the random media that might be around. Now there's been a lot of books and comic books of Friday the 13th. I read a few comic books, but overall most of that media I haven't touched. Mm-hmm. Now documentary-wise, there's been 2. One was his name was Jason.
Yeah.
30 Years of Friday the 13th. And then it was followed by Camp Crystal Lake Memories. Now the first one, his name was Jason. They're actually both directed by the same person. One came out in 2009, one came out in 2013. Now his name was Jason from 2009. I think it's narrated by Tom Savini, and
it was good.
It's much shorter than the other one. I liked it, but I've seen a lot of horror documentaries, and it was probably my least favorite.
It was weaker than we compare it a lot to a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street.
And then that same guy directed it too, which is odd. Now, that guy then went on to do Nightmare on Elm Street documentary, which is my favorite of the documentaries. And so he went back and made Camp Crystal Lake Memories or whatever. Crystal Lake Memories.
That is the most one. Okay, there's another one, but this is one of the most in-depth looks at a series I've ever seen. If you want to know everything about Friday the 13th, watch it.
Watch that. Now I got a Blu-ray combo pack, but because at the time that's all they had, but you can buy it on DVD for pretty cheap.
How long was it?
Around 400 minutes, I want to say.
Yeah. Us and James sat down.
Yeah, over a course of 2 days. 400 minutes exactly. Now, it was way too long, so if you want something concise,
you gotta break it up.
Go with his name was Jason. If you like Friday the 13th, go with that. Now, basically, it's about 30 minutes per movie is what they spend time talking about.
Yeah.
And it's narrated by Corey Feldman.
Which makes it good.
Makes it amazing. It was definitely in-depth. I would probably only recommend it if you're a fan of the series.
Yeah,
but
if you're a casual fan.
it's really worth the watch, I would
It is
say.
definitely worth the watch.
Now, besides that, there's also been two video games mainly. Like, there's been some other ones,
but there's been like the
original one for the
LJ.
NES.
Yeah, it was like an LJN
Yeah.
game. I mean, I get most of the.
We've
I've
never
never
played
played it. I get most of my information from Cinemassacre and AVGN.
Mhm.
His reviews on it, which he does a great job. I would suggest watching it. But I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've probably watched that in the past.
It's. Well, what do you think of the original game that from you've seen with AVGN?
It just looks like any kind of.
Yeah, it looks like you could have
It's a
just
product of its
supplanted
time.
anything into
There
it.
isn't really anything different.
No, he's like purple in it for some reason. And
I mean, if you want to see like bad
You
stuff
don't
about the
see
game, go on
Yeah.
Cinemassacre.
now, there's another game that we have. He's purple for some reason. It makes no sense. And then
It's like
basically,
a lighting mistake.
fighting.
I mean, I hope so.
And then finally, there was Friday the 13th, the game that came out recently that we talked about.
Very good.
I am obsessed with it. I play it nonstop.
It's fun to even watch because it plays like a movie. Like the whole like, there's all these different Jasons. I mean, I've really never played it. I've just watched them play it. But like, there's all these different Jason skins, different counselors, different costumes for the counselors. I would say like you could play as all these different Jasons. So it doesn't have every Jason, but they're
It
gonna
has most.
they're gonna probably get to most.
Oh,
So
what does it have? It
Yeah.
has Backhead Jason, Parts 3. They just added Part 4. They don't have Roy Burns, the ambulance driver.
I don't know if they'll ever
sadly.
get that one.
So they don't have Part 5 yet, but I think they have 6. I want to say they have 6.
Yeah.
7. So Jason Lives, New Blood, and then Takes Manhattan, and then I think Goes to Hell. Now he doesn't have Uber Jason or regular Jason from Jason X or the reboot or Freddy vs. Jason. The reboot and Freddy vs. Jason probably are not coming due to rights issues.
I can see Jason X.
But the other one, some of the other ones should be coming down the road. Basically, you play as a counselor or Jason. If you're a counselor, you're trying to repair a car, call the cops, survive the night, and that's how you live. Jason, on the other hand, is trying to kill you. So if you're Jason, you track down the counselors in some interesting ways, and there's brutal kills. It's very bloody. They had Kane Hodder come in and do the motion capture of Jason.
Yeah,
which
so
just adds
he's
to
got
it.
his like little like.
So every Jason moves like Jason, Kane Hodder. And the counselors are like very stereotypical, just like the edgy guy, the flirty girl, the girl next door, which is a survivor girl. And then they've added like people from the movie into it.
Yeah, Fox.
Fox is in it and Shelly's in
Shelley.
it from Parts 3.
Is Shelly in it now?
Shelly it will be added in the new update.
Okay, I was gonna
Corey
say.
Feldman in it.
Sadly, there's no Corey
yeah.
Feldman. There is Tommy Jarvis.
Or Tommy
but
Jarvis,
yeah.
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, Tommy Jarvis is in
Which is a
from
cool
Part
character.
6,
I
but
really
it's
like
not
that.
Corey Feldman.
It's the other one. It's not the really
Yeah.
stupid one.
Overall, like this is not a review of the game. It's mainly the movies, but I enjoy the game.
I would
It
suggest
feels
the
like a
game.
movie. If you like the movies,
You like
you'll
gory
probably like
kills.
the game,
You like killing teenagers.
which is very fun. Now, the only other thing I'll include, I talked about it briefly, but there was a pilot episode filmed for a Friday 13th TV show for the CW. It did not get picked up. Instead, I think they went with Archie's Riverdale instead.
Aw.
Because I'm pretty sure it would have came out at the same time Friday the 13th would have.
Riverdale.
So, blame Riverdale. It didn't get picked up. I don't know if it's online or available. I don't know if you'll ever be able to see it. I would have
Probably
liked the TV
not.
show. I bet a TV show would have been fun that actually was about
I think it
Jason.
did decent too.
So, that's unfortunate. Anything else you guys would like to add about Friday the 13th in general?
I mean, this is probably I would say it's, at least in my point of view, the most iconic slasher movie killer is Jason. Then probably Freddy is a close second. And like Leatherface, Chucky, and all them. But I would say this is probably like, if somebody was just getting into slasher like horror movies, I would say watch these first.
Yeah, if you don't like these, you might not like
You'll
these.
get you'll get what the slasher movies are about by this.
Anything you like to add?
No, I agree with Shane.
Yeah.
They're very good films. Enjoyable. Maybe not all good, but enjoyable.
They're
Do you have
fun.
anything, James?
Nope.
Okay, so that would include our Friday the 13th review. I don't know what we have up next, but definitely tune in for the next episode.
And have a nice day.